Hello, Phil Conrad here for Computer Science 156. We're continuing from the previous video. In the previous video, we built our controller and we built our first controller tests. In this video, we're just going to add one more controller method. And here is what the card says. We're going to add a get mapping to get a single record from the table. And we're going to pass in the ID for that record as a request param. We're going to return that row as a JSON object, and otherwise we're going to throw an entity not found exception. So that's what we're setting out to do, and let's get to it. So the branch we're on right now is the previous branch for the creating the commit controller. We're going to check out a new branch based on this one. So PC, we're going to do a get. This is going to be for commits, get by ID. And let's go into VS Code. Here is our commits controller. And we've been pulling code from UCSB dates controller. This get a single date by ID. This is the method we want to base our new method on. Get a single date. Ours is going to be get a single commit, but we'll take this code and we'll copy it into our commits controller. And we'll put it here in the third position since it's the third one we're actually implementing. Shift Option F on Mac will reformat the code for us. If you want to do that on Windows or Linux, if you go over here and go VS Code, let's see, VS Code, somewhere on here, I have tips and tricks. There we go. Multi-line editing, format and dent code. On Windows, it's Shift Alt F. On Mac, it's Shift Option F, and on Linux, for some reason, it's Control Shift I. But that is how you can automatically reformat your code in VS Code, provided you have the right extensions installed. So get a single date by ID, get a single commit by ID. ID is the ID of the commit, return a commit, operation, get a single commit, pre-authorize has role user, that's fine for us. The get mapping is empty because we're just going to use the API commits as our URL. UCSB date, no, we want to return a commit. UCSB date, nope, we want to return a commit. We'll give it the name, variable name commit. It'll be our commit repository. And find by ID, or else throw an entity not found exception. And we're going to pass in not UCSB date.class, but commit.class. And we're going to return the commit. That is our controller method. So with that in place, we should be able to run it. So let's do a Maven Spring Boot run. Let's make sure our front end is still up. We don't really need to restart the front end. Let's go to localhost 8080, log in, go to Swagger, and here are our commits. If I do a get commits, API commits all, we see we have one commit in there with ID 1. If I do a get and I put in ID 1, I get exactly that commit. But if I put in ID 7, I get entity not found exception commit with ID 7 not found. That is exactly what we want. But let's do another post, and we'll say this is a message. We'll say https example.org foobar. Author login is Joe Biden. And commit time is, that's the one we can't fake, 2024 10/31 T 12/34 56 Z. Execute. All right, so now we have an ID number 2. And if we go up to get, we should be able to get number 2. And there's our commit message number 2. We should be able to get number 1. There's our commit message number 1. We ask for number 3. It says it doesn't exist. All is well. So let's do a get add, get commit minus m pc, add controller method for get by ID for commits, get push, origin, PC commits get by ID minus u to set that as the new default branch. We'll go ahead and open the pull request, even though we know it will fail because we don't have the test coverage yet. But it's just convenient since we've got that that URL there. So PC add get by ID for commits. In this PR, we add another endpoint to the commits controller, one that allows us to get a commit by its ID. And then we can go over to Swagger and we can take a picture of that and paste it in. And draft pull request. Draft because we know the tests aren't going to pass yet. And we can also go over to Doku and we can put our new branch in over on Doku. Our new branch is PC commits get by ID. And we can Doku PS rebuild. And we can let that, oops, got to specify the app name. There it is. We can let that cook while we work on the tests. So for the tests, let's go back to VS Code. We want the tests, if we go to our dates controller tests, we want the tests that have a URL that looks like this, where we're doing API UCSB dates, ID equals, and then a number. Those are the tests that we left out before, but we need to add those into our tests here. And I'm going to put them at the bottom rather than keeping the order in which they were in the original. This makes a little bit more sense to do them, have them in the file in the order in which we added them and in the order that the methods appear in the file. So here's another one of those tests that we're going to need over here. And you can see this green line is showing me that this is new code since my last commit. That's helpful. VS Code does that when you have it set up with, when you actually open the VS Code project in the directory where the Git directory is. It will help keep track of that for you. We already tested the post. We don't need that. But this is one that is, now this is delete, so we don't need this one yet. This one's delete. We don't need this one yet. And this one is put. We don't need that one yet. This one's edit. That's also going to be put. We don't need that one yet. So the new tests we have, actually over here, we have one test to say when you're logged out, you shouldn't be able to get by ID, but when you're logged in, you should be able to get by ID. And what do we need to change? Well, we need to change UCSB dates to commits here and here. We need to change UCSB date repository to commits, commit repository. It looks like we used the singular there. Not good that we were inconsistent, but it is what it is. What we're saying here is when we look for 7L, return empty, meaning you didn't find it. And so this is what happens when you do a lookup on a repository by ID, and that ID is not found, you get an optional of the an optional object that is empty. When you look and it is there, you get an optional object and it actually has a value in it. In this case, we are looking this up and we are verifying that we looked in the commit repository for this number 7L, and that what we got back was entity not found exception, not with the UCSB date, but a commit with ID 7 not found. Now, what I'm noticing is we don't have a test here for looking up something by its ID and returning it when it is found. Maybe we'll end up with a test coverage gap and we'll need to add a new test. Let's find out. But for the meantime, this looks pretty good. So let's do Maven test. And again, I could do the entire test suite, but it's a lot simpler to just test the controller that I've changed. So that is the commits controller tests. And I believe it had 6 tests in it before, and now it should have 8, and they all pass. So now let's do Maven test Jacoco report. And this time it will run the entire test suite. And let's see how that turns out. All right, so open target site Jacoco index. And notice it says 98%. And sure enough, yep, remember I said we did not have a test for when we really, really do return the commit? This is yellow because, well, with the or else throw is tested, but not the regular part of the code where we actually are returning a commit that exists. So rather than build that by copying, pasting from some other test, let's see if we can actually build that from first principles. It's going to be very similar to this test. This is when the ID does not exist, except this test is going to be when the ID does exist. And what we're going to need a commit object to return. So I'll grab one from here. And instead of returning optional.empty, let's set up that object. And then instead of returning optional.empty, we're going to return optional of that value, which is commit 1. There we go. And then we're going to verify not that we got this map of string to object that has all of this stuff in it. Instead, we're going to do something very similar to what we did up here, where we have, first of all, we're going to verify that when that in the commit repository, we called find by ID with 7 as our parameter right here. And then we're going to verify, we're going to get the expected JSON for this commit 1. We're going to get the actual response string, which is the JSON that we got back from this response, and we're going to assert that they're equal to each other. Now, the thing is, I think I just made a mistake in the sense that I changed this one to ID does exist, and this one is ID does not exist, but this really is now ID does exist. So I copied and pasted the test, changed the name, but then I started editing the wrong one. Maybe you caught that as you were watching along, but I caught it before I ran the test, so that's good. Let's run these tests again. And we can actually just do Maven test Jacoco report. Hopefully all the tests pass. If they don't, the Jacoco report is useless. I think, there are test failures. All right, I got too overconfident. Let's run just this test suite and see which one of our tests failed. All right, the failure was this one. And I'm going to take the opportunity to show you a trick. When you have one test that failed, sometimes it can be hard to find the real problem among all the error messages. So if you copy this, the name of the class and the name of the test, stopping when you get to this :167. By the :167, by the way, is the line number that the test is on. So we can go to line 167, and there's where it failed. But what I want to show you is I can do maven test -d test equals, paste that in. And now if I use my cursor and go all the way back over to here, change that dot to a \hashtag, \sharp or \pound sign, \hashtag, whatever you want to call it, it will run only the test that failed. And now I have a lot less error output to look through to figure out what went wrong. All right, so what is the test saying here? It is saying I tried to do API commits get with id equal to 7, and what I got back, xframe deny. The failure, okay, status expected 404 but was 200. Aha! The problem is here. This is when the ID does exist, but the status is not found. The status really shouldn't be is not found. The status should be is okay. So I need to change this to is okay, because this web request should return with the actual object, and it should return status 200. So let's try that again. Again, we're running just the one test to make sure that it passes, and it does. So now we'll run the whole Maven test Jacoco report, and hopefully it will be completely green and perfect. So now we can do open target site Jacoco index, 100%, 100%, except where it's NA. Where it's NA, we don't worry about it. So that looks good to me. Let's do a get status. Let's do a get add. Get status again. Get commit -mpc add tests for get by ID on commits. Get push. I can just say get push because earlier I did a get push origin branch name with the -u. So now if I go look over here under my pull requests, it is thinking about it. Let's also take a look on Doku, because I think I did sync up this with Doku. So let's check that on Doku that our Swagger works properly. So let's see, this is team01. Yeah, that's it. Log in. Swagger. Here's our commits. And if I do a get all, I have just one commit in there. And if I do a get by ID 1, comes back. And if I do a get by ID 2, I get an error message. All right, so I'm satisfied that Doku is working properly. Let's check our acceptance criteria. In the commit controller, there's code for an endpoint get, API commit. Yes, there is. The Swagger endpoint is well documented. Yes. The endpoint works on localhost. It works on Doku. There's full test coverage. Full mutation coverage, we will know in just a moment when this little yellow circle either turns green or turns red. PyTest is still cooking. It takes a little while for PyTest. So I'm going to pause the video while we wait for all of these yellow circles to turn green or red X. If they all turn green, then we will be done with this issue in record time. And if there's a red X, then we will deal with whatever the problem is. All right, we're back. All the checks have passed, so this is now ready for review. This looks reasonable to me as far as a title, a description. We've got a screenshot. So I think we do want to go in and say closes number and then put in the number of our issue, which is number 53. There we are, closes number 53. Update comment. So now the pull request is linked to the issue. Is it linked to the issue? I would have expected it to show up here. Huh, that's weird. If I go 53 and then go back, and it was just a little bit of lag. So now these do point to each other, which is what we want. Under development, you see that the issue and the pull request are linked. And so now I can go back to my Kanban board. Hello, Kanban board. There we go. Drag this to in review. And it should tell me on here what the next issue is. By the way, in the real world, it will not tell you what issue to do next. You have to figure that out with your team. But in this phase of the course, we are still learning the whole process. So I kind of walk you through it. So let's see, do a PR, assign yourself the next incomplete issue for your database table, which is commit. So the next incomplete issue for commit, if I just type in commit here, put and delete. Looks like put has a lower number than delete. So I'll drag that over to in progress. And these next two are going to go quickly, just like this one did. Next two are a little bit harder than get by ID, but not much harder. So we will end this video here. And in the next video, we will work on put, which is how you take a database record that's already in the table and edit it, change some of its values. Okay, so I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.